What's good, Tuan X? So the Nintendo Switch Lite, we're excited about it, right? I'm excited about it. Now, while I don't think the system is for everybody, I think it is a fantastic alternative for a lot of people who want a cheaper Nintendo Switch. Unfortunately, there are some drawbacks to that. There are a few games for the Nintendo Switch that won't work as well on the Nintendo Switch Lite. And so that's what I'm here to talk about today. But in general, I'm overall excited and hyped about the Nintendo Switch Lite. I want to own it, even though I already have a Nintendo Switch. I actually want every single color of the Nintendo Switch Lite because I think the console looks fantastic. I especially am looking forward, and I already pre-ordered the Pokemon version of the Nintendo Switch Lite. But some people are disappointed that you can't dock the Nintendo Switch Lite, so you can't, have it output to your television set. That is a little bit disappointing, but it does make sense. You don't want to push people away from getting the OG Nintendo Switch. So what's a way for you to get people to still be interested in the OG Switch, but at the same time have some other folk that may be interested in the Lite? Well, you make it so it can't dock, because if it can dock and it's $100 less than the regular Switch, why would you buy the regular Switch? Even if you'd have to buy the dock separately, I think some people would prefer diving in, jumping, and getting that Switch Lite, knowing that it can dock even if they don't get the dock right away, versus spending $300. If they could save that $100 up front, I think people would go for it. So I understand not allowing it to dock. I think that was probably the smartest decision they could make with the Nintendo Switch Lite in terms of a business standpoint. This is the perfect way to have people have to make that decision. Do you want something you can dock and play with the whole family, or do you want a device that is pretty much just for a singular person? And then on top of that, there are no detachable Joy-Con on the Nintendo Switch Lite, which is the reason why it won't work as well with most of the games I'm going to talk about. Now, the good thing is that you can actually use Joy-Con with the Nintendo Switch Lite. You just, of course, have to purchase them separately, which is like another $80. But it was a cost-saving feature in order to get that Nintendo Switch Lite down to the price point that it's at, and to allow Nintendo as a company to have wider margins. And then the plus side is you get a D-pad on the Nintendo Switch Lite, which I am super excited about. All the fighting game fans out there, you should be excited about that as well. Nintendo makes the best D-pads in the world, and so I'm definitely looking forward to that. So yeah, there are trade-offs here. You're not getting some things, but on the other side, you are getting a console that is lighter, it's smaller, it's more portable, it's more affordable. And if you're a person that played mostly or pretty much all the time handheld, this is the perfect console for you. And if you don't like to share, this is also a pretty good console for you. This really isn't like a family system. This is more of like a system for the individual. Whereas the original Nintendo Switch, you could dock it, you have a bunch of controllers attached to it, you can play it on the big screen, pretty much everyone in the family could play it. With the Nintendo Switch Lite, Nintendo is getting individuals to buy it for themselves individually. Now, of course, it's great for Nintendo. More people have Nintendo Switch, means more Nintendo Switches sold. That means more money for Nintendo, and that means they're doing even better than they're already doing. Options are good, even if it isn't a good option for you. The Switch Lite isn't for everybody, which is why you have the regular OG Nintendo Switch to buy. Options are good. I want even more options. Huh? Give me more. Give me a Pro dock that makes my regular Nintendo Switch even more powerful when I dock it in there. How about that? But sometimes options come with sacrifices, which obviously is the point of this video. In the games I'm going to talk about, so you sacrifice dockability, you sacrifice removable Joy-Con, you sacrifice the little IR sensor, and you sacrifice HD rumble. Certain games just won't work on the console. But one of those games being one of Nintendo's biggest experiments that they came out with for the Nintendo Switch, Nintendo Labo. That whole experience won't work as well on the Nintendo Switch Lite. Why is that? Well, because you need to dock your Nintendo Switch onto the little contraptions that you make, and being that the Nintendo Switch Lite is smaller and doesn't have detachable Joy-Con, it won't fit properly in any of the Labo kits. You would have to jerry-rig that thing in order for it to work. They would have to come out with whole new Labo sets, which they may or may not do, or adapters or something like that. Now, if you do decide to jerry-rig it, you can, and you can probably actually get Nintendo Labo to work. You'd have to buy a bunch of extra Joy-Con in the process, but that's pretty much what you got to do anyway when it comes to Nintendo Labo and the Labo creations and whatnot, for some of them at least. So if you are intent with getting your Nintendo Labo to work with the Nintendo Switch Lite, it can be done. It may look a little weird, but you can do it. good luck. Another game that won't work well on the Nintendo Switch Lite is 1-2 Switch, one of the launch titles for the Nintendo Switch. Now 1-2 Switch was a decent game. It didn't really have a long shelf life. They really, kind of abandoned it after day one. But if you wanted to play 1-2 Switch on your Nintendo Switch Lite, you would be in a bit of a predicament. You would end up, again, having to purchase another set of Joy-Con because you're pretty much required to for most of the games that you play with 1-2 Switch. And on top of that, you need a way to actually sit your Nintendo Switch Lite up. Fortunately, there actually is a peripheral that Nintendo made themselves that should work on the Nintendo Switch Lite. This right here, they actually made a kickstand for the OG Nintendo Switch. It's actually a far more durable kickstand than the one that's currently attached to the Nintendo Switch. And there's no reason for me to believe that you couldn't just dock your Nintendo Switch Lite onto this as well. Looking at the back of the Nintendo Switch Lite, it looks like it'll actually fit. And I think for people who do want to play some of these games that the Nintendo Switch Lite doesn't support very well, this is the peripheral you want to buy. And yeah, you can actually charge your Nintendo Switch and have it on this kickstand as well. It has a little AC adapter thingy on the side. I will leave a link in the description to this. Buy this as soon as possible. It may become hard to find and you'll be paying a premium for it in the future. Buy it now. Link in the description. Don't say I didn't warn you. I'm letting you know right now. Especially if you're a fan of like official Nintendo products and aren't a big fan of buying third-party stuff. Hello. Get it? And then there's also the Just Dance series. You gotta have detachable Joy-Con for that. You're gonna have to shell out some beans. You're gonna have to break the bank. And of course, you're gonna need a way to prop up your Nintendo Switch Lite. You gotta have yourself a kickstand. You gotta do your dance moves without a big screen. It's gonna be a little difficult for that to work very well with Just Dance. It's not the perfect scenario. If you're talking about a two-player experience, you can pretty much almost count that out. Like, you're gonna have two people sitting there trying to look at a 5-inch screen from like 5, 6, 7 feet away to do dance moves.
Girls, what y'all trying to do? 24-karat magic.
That's gonna be a rough time. Another game that's gonna be pretty rough on the Nintendo Switch Lite is fitness boxing, which of course is like a rhythm like boxing game. Of course, you need Joy-Con for that. You need some type of kickstand for that as well. I don't know much about the game. I don't know if it's worth shelling out the extra money for the Joy-Con for it, but you would need to. Also, I can't avoid talking about like the party games and the multiplayer games where you're supposed to be sitting around and all playing the same game at the same time on the big screen. That's going to be pretty daggone hard with the Nintendo Switch Lite. We're talking games like the Jackbox Party Pack games, super fun multiplayer games that are super fun to play on a big screen when you have a group of friends. That'd be super awkward to play on something like the Nintendo Switch Lite. Also, local multiplayer games like Snipper Clips or Overcooked and Cuphead, not gonna be as fun to play together with someone on a Nintendo Switch Lite. Now, if the game supports a player with another Nintendo Switch playing with you in the same room, same vicinity, that's good. Some of them do. But if it doesn't and you gotta share a screen, well, the Nintendo Switch Lite isn't really great for screen sharing type games. And speaking of local multiplayer games, of course, Super Mario Party. Nintendo kind of just ruined the support for Super Mario Party. That's like the premier party game on the Nintendo Switch, the one game you want to dock and play with all your friends on Nintendo Switch. That game is not going to work with Nintendo Switch Lite very well at all. Of course, you still have to buy those extra Joy-Con, and then you'd have to huddle around this Nintendo Switch to play this game with your homies, and that's just not the optimal way to play. Sure, you can play Super Mario Party by yourself, but then that's kind of sad. So there are sacrifices to the Nintendo Switch Lite. I love the console. I'm gonna buy it. I want every single color. But where you do gain affordability and portability and cool colors and whatnot, new design, you lose in other areas. And if those games are important to you, you should be looking at the OG Switch. It's worth that extra $100. Trust that. But if you don't care about that, if you just want a Nintendo Switch for yourself, if you're okay with playing handheld, like for some people, they work a 9 to 5, they have a very busy life, and they really don't have time to play on a big screen. The only time they actually get to play is while they're on the go, or while they're taking a poop, or while they're laying in bed after a long day, and they get those few 20 minutes to a couple hours to play a video game for themselves. If you're one of those types of folk, Nintendo Switch Lite may be perfect for you. Point is, there are options now. You have more options than you had before, and you have a cheaper option than you had before. It's up for you to decide which one's more worth it to you. Oh, and here's a little secret. The Nintendo Switch actually supports you having multiple consoles with the same profile. You can have one main console, and then you can have other supplementary consoles, and you can still play your downloadable games. If you have Nintendo Switch Online, you have the cloud saves. The cloud saves will save, and you can switch between the different switches. It's fantastic. You can do this. Read about it. I'll leave a link in the description below to that as well. You can have a main Switch and supplementary switches. So if you're someone like me who wants it all, you can have it all. You don't have to create different profiles and whatnot. I'm super excited about it. This month, I'm giving away a copy of the Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy with game controller, all thanks to my homie Destiny FOMO. Shouts out to her. And all you have to do to enter for a chance to win is answer the question of the day in the comments below, and head on over to tuanx.com and join the Lunatics. That's the only way to find out if you won and to claim your prize. Oh, and you'll also get a discount code so you can get one of these, cool little shirts and whatnot. Link is in the description below, and remember to stay crazy. No.